Yay. Okay. Yay. We made it. Okay. Welcome to lesson five
Lesson
of how
five.
these things. We last in Payson, we did a review. We started off with a review of the last four lessons, which I found very, very helpful to really get the flow
Get a
of
pen.
the whole thing. So I don't know if anyone wants to give it a crack at it to see if they can any lesson one, lesson two, lesson three, lesson four, if there's like the main themes of each one. And if no one wants to try, I can definitely help out giving the um just the summary of each one so we can get the flow of really where we're progression and happiness we've gone so far. Anyone? I know it's a hard one. It's hard. It's like I feel like I'm back in school, don't you? It's like you feel it's like
Yeah, it feels like
well, it's
that.
like the pressure, yeah. Anyways, okay, fine.
No,
We had
So I'll do it.
gratitude. I will take as partial. We can work
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, go for it.
We had gratitude, right? Was the first one?
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So the first one was yeah, so I can elaborate on that. The first one is I would say the most fun, like most primitive and basic level of happiness, which is just the simple idea of being happy for the physical and blessings in our lives, like our health, our possessions, the people in our lives, just the most basic level of happiness for the things in our lives, that those things should bring us happiness if we have the right level of gratitude. That's lesson one. Lesson two.
Lesson two was
That's
yeah,
okay. Nobody's quizzing you. Thank God
journey to
we
yourself, huh? Learning
um
It's open
yeah,
book,
journey to yourself
Steve.
exactly. So
yeah, open book.
open book test.
open book yeah, open book. So it's all about self having a positive self-concept.
Right, self-esteem,
And
self-concept.
exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of happiness, because you can be happy from things external, like external blessings, like I have all these possessions, I have health and this and that, but you could still be not happy about your own, self-concept and your self-esteem and stuff like that. So that could still be a challenge, even if you have the right levels of gratitude and incorporate all that, right? So
Right.
so that's what lesson two is really all about. So it's like kind of like we're going through different levels of happiness. We're kind of just working our way up the happiness ladder into more from the most basic levels of happiness that to the more subtle and refined levels of happiness throughout each of the six levels of the course. So that was lesson two, and then at the end of lesson two, we spoke about like humility and how that relates to all that. Lesson three was all about personality, right? Our own,
Personality and purpose.
so yeah, we kind of took a more of a deep dive into our who we are to figure out what our purpose is, because you can have a positive self-esteem about yourself, but you could also have a further lacking in your happiness in the sense that you know that you have a purpose, but you're having a hard time figuring out what that purpose is. So the way to go about that is by learning more about who you are, learn about yourself and your personality traits, and you try to utilize those strengths to figure out what your purpose in life is. So that was the lesson three, where we learned about the 10 spheroids, which was very, very powerful and very helpful in last week and lesson four, and and also the next three lessons, the lesson four, um, which is last week, was all about worry. So basically the whole idea of that is, you can have stress from the I guess your physical lacking or potential physical lacking that you might have in the future, right? Meaning worry, which is basically another way of saying worry, to be worried about things in the future. And so we spoke about what causes worries and what are ways to overcome it, and then ways to at the outset through bitachon, not even to try to reduce the likelihood of worrisome feelings happening in the first place. and to trust, for with regards to, so that's with regards to stress, with regards to physical strengths. Now, this lesson five, is going to be even more refined level of happiness, which is a very high level to attain. Um, this lesson will talk about what if you are, you've overcome any worry and you have trust and everything, but you are still have some stress with regards to your spiritual lackings or your lacks in your character, character flaws, et cetera, et cetera. So that is really what lesson five is really all about. And what's really powerful, I think lesson five is the best lesson so far. I'm a little biased because we are in lesson five. And obviously, every lesson that we're in right now is the best lesson. Um, but aside from that, is um, um, the all the previous four lessons that we learned are all based on basic concepts within Torah, Judaism in general. So like verses from the Bible, from the prophets, from the Talmud, ideas from Midrash, um, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, Chabad Hasidic teachings can helps shed some light on some of those topics that we spoke about over the last four lessons. But this is the first lesson that is exclusively a novel insight of the Tanya, which is the Tanya. Does anybody know what the Tanya is? That's a good. Oh, okay. Does someone raise their hand?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it. What's the Tanya?
You get it. Oh, you want me to do it? Yeah. The Tanya is basically the magna opus of the Alter Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Very good. Yes. So this is what's really unique about this. So the Alter Rebbe in the Tanya, he addresses this idea of how do we overcome. I might be happy with everything. I don't have any worry about my physical well-being. I have trust in God that He's going to provide for me and my family, and everything's going to be good physically. But what if I have spiritual deficiencies and that I'm getting frustrated by that, and that's causing stress in and of itself? And this is what the Tanya comes to address, which is very, very, very powerful. That we have lesson five is um, all about the spiritual lacking and how to overcome that kind of stress and unhappiness that might come from that. So, without further ado, page 169 is we have exercise 5.1. I want you to take 2 minutes or less, maybe 60 seconds. I think we could do it 60 seconds. From the following, this is a 159, exercise 5.1. From the following list, identify one trait that does not pose a challenge to you and select one that does. And this is just more of an exercise to get you thinking about possible traits that you might find that could possibly bring stress in your life.
Pose a challenge for you and select one
I'm
that
gonna
does.
mute you. Don't take it personally, Hima.
Greed.
If anyone wants to chime in, please unmute yourself, or you can even, the best is, because I don't want it to be a monologue here. I love it when people make those reactions. Yeah, here's the reaction. So you can go like this, spaceship. Okay, yeah, like stuff like that. So that was fun. Saw that spaceship going there. That was fun. So yeah, feel free to react as much or as little as you want throughout the course. Or you can also play a chime to raise your hand. So we got a thumbs up there. Okay, good. Did anyone, how about this? Why don't you react with a thumbs up once you have done the exercise, at least selecting one challenge thing that's challenging. Okay, so I saw mom raise her thumb. So do you wanna say a share?
You want me to say what my
Well, you
challenge
don't
is?
actually, I actually don't because it's a personal
I was gonna
thing.
say.
It's personal, and you're right. It's
I
personal.
mean,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, you could, but you're right. The main idea is just to get the mind flying. Sorry for muting you. My finger slipped. Uh, okay. Um, Let's let's move to the next slide here. Because this introduction, okay, judging yourselves, yes. Okay, by the way, since we're getting closer towards the end of the course, I'm gonna break a little teaser here. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but every single course, the title of each lesson has had the acronym JOY in it. So next week, when we do our final lesson, we'll be able to review all of the lessons in a very fun way, because you'll be able to use the acronym JOY to help remember the content of each lesson and be able to help internalize it more. Um, okay. Okay, so these are two. Okay, so we're gonna mainly talk about this first type of spiritual distress, which is disappointment in our flaws. Towards the end of the class, if we have time, which we may or may not, there's another type of spiritual distress that can come from like um, actual sin. If someone actually has sin, um, actually did something actually wrong, and you feel really guilty about that, that would require an additional step. But the main novelty of what we want to really, really drive the point home in this lesson is the first of the two, and hopefully we can get to the other one later. I introduced the class on Monday, with this but it's just such a funny thing. So when I was driving up to Payson this on Monday, there was a billboard on the way up to Payson about happiness. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. I wonder if this has relates to my course. So it was a Dairy Queen ad, and the entire billboard was upside down, and it said, "Happiness is up." It was all written upside down. It said, "Happiness is upside down." So I was like, that's very interesting. Um, and I realized that it's actually perfectly related to this lesson, because we're going to see that the way that most people perceive this topic, the way to address it's the exact opposite. Everything's flipped on its head, and you'll see throughout the lesson how that is. So happiness really is upside down. Dairy Queen is right, and you'll see about the course why. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have a couple an exercise and a couple sources, which is like super basic Tanya 101. Um, but maybe I'll just have you guys just do exercise 5.2. Just take like 10-20 seconds to do exercise 5.2. Um, I see a note in the chat, so I'm going to read it. Oh, hi, Tikva. Dr. Hernandez, welcome to the chat.
hi, how are you?
Hi, hi. Slide mentions guilt from sin. Also, someone might experience inappropriate guilt for sin they believe they did when it might not be the case. Could be started due to high expectations. That's very true. Very true.
I guess
Good.
I guess my question is, how do we know that we actually committed a sin? Because sometimes
Ah,
people commit maybe a lot of people have high expectations on themselves and what they think they should be doing. And if it doesn't look that certain way, they may start thinking that they committed a sin when in reality, maybe they just didn't. And it's just an issue of expectations and how they perceive themselves.
also, yeah, I mean, I think there's also so many subtleties to our divine service, and what for one person might be like, for example, by Moses striking the rock, just by him uh striking the rock and not talking to the rock, and that was like the biggest sin in the world, for him, whereas, for us, that's like a very, that wouldn't even be considered a sin at all. So I mean, obviously there's certain things in the Torah that are just very black and white, but what we're talking about is really like flaws in character, that might, yeah, that could lead potentially, if that negative character trait is not uh not held not restrained enough, or not
Hmm.
harmed, then it could lead to for example, this like negative thought, like Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Okay,
Yeah.
did anybody get a chance to quickly do exercise 5.2? You can either unmute yourself or react with oh, we got a thumbs up from mom. I saw Daniel say yeah. So I'm gonna ask Daniel to unmute yourself.
I found that super interesting, actually. I really enjoyed it. It was funny how I have these like opposite answers.
Ah, that's the point of the exercise.
Yeah, it really jumped out at me. I'm like, wow. Like, I'd be like, oh, there are times when I only care about my own existence and well-being. Yes. Oh, it's not just about me, and there are greater things and more important than my existence. Absolutely. It's like, oh.
So that's the
Very
whole
good.
point. So this actually lends into the very most fundamental concept of the very beginning of Tanya, of the first chapter and second chapter of Tanya, which is a very crucial to understanding just the basics, fundamentals, is on page 162 that we have two souls. Um, so we have two souls. We have the ice cream soul and we have the fireworks soul. No, I'm just kidding. The animal soul and the godly soul. Um, does this ring a bell for anyone? Is this kind of like basic review for most people, or is this kind of new insights to most people? You don't have to say if you don't want to. Anyways, or you could either way. Who wants to read? Mom, you want to read text 1A? I'll just work away.
Sure.
Great.
It's 1A. Each
Mhm.
of us, whether religious or wicked,
No, righteous.
it's righteous, sorry, looking at this, whether righteous or wicked, has two souls, as it is written, I have created souls.
Mhm.
One soul originates in unholiness, and all negative character traits stem from it. This soul is also the source of positive traits such as mercy and benevolence.
Very good. So this is the first of the two souls. This is the animal soul, as you can see by the lady holding the ice cream. Um, basically, just to summarize the animal soul in like, there's nothing, animal soul is not inherently bad. The animal soul is basically just the selfish, is just wants what's good for itself, which is I would call it like the normal soul. Like that's just called being normal. Most normal people, they just are looking out for themselves and want what's best for themselves, which is actually a very healthy and good thing most of the time. So it's not like it's inherently bad. But it is more of an animalistic soul, in the sense that it's pursuing its own desires, wants to make sure it's helping itself, making sure, which is actually very important for survival, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, text 1B. Ima and Ta, why don't one of you should read text 1B? Oh, I gotta unmute you. Wait, don't say anything yet. Oh no, you have to unmute. So I can ask you to unmute, but you must
Okay.
unmute. There you go.
Okay. Our second soul is part of God above, literally.
Very good. So
That's
that's
right.
the second soul. The second soul, I would say, is the way to think of the godly soul, this fireworks icon here, is is like the selfless soul, the soul that's like only all it cares about is wants to crave spirituality and helping others, and only um ah Dr. Hernandez made a good point in the chat that in psychology the animal soul is the id, right? Did I pronounce it right? Id.
Yes,
The godly
which is
soul is
primitive.
superego. Yeah, there you go. So that's cool. That's actually really cool that you have both the concepts in psychology
And the
too.
superego is the morality center, which is what we would call the godly soul.
Wow, that's amazing. Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Freud,
so
by the way, from an interesting standpoint, was Jewish. So a lot of him and cognitive
are
behavioral therapy, who was done by Aaron Beck, he was also Jewish.
you talking
They
about
just
Freud?
used a lot of these Torah terms and
Mhm.
they made it more secular and just
Interesting.
changed the names.
Wow, that is so fascinating. Wow, that's amazing. Are you talking about Freud?
Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice.
So it was Aaron
Um,
Beck who did the cognitive theory. We talked a
Yeah.
little bit about CBT last week regarding the
Yeah.
thoughts and all that. That comes from Aaron Beck, who had an institute in New York, and he was also Jewish.
Nice. Yeah. And wow, that's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, okay, so the reason why we use this analogy of the Battle of the Two Kings, imagine like your body, so to speak, as like a city, right? And you can't have two kings over the one city. This town ain't big enough for the both of us kind of thing, right? One can only be in control at any given time. So it's a constant inner battle between your godly soul and your animal soul. Um, and it's a lot of it's just like a lot of times in life, the classic analogy is in the story we read just a few weeks ago in the Torah about Rebecca, how she had twins, Yaakov and Esav. So it says in the pasuk, Shnei goyim bevitznei, Shnei lumim me'ach paridu, right? You have two, like she was all confused, like, wait a minute, why is it when I'm going to one place? I'm going to a house of idols, like my stomach is getting all excited, like there's like the baby inside me is getting all like riled up. And then when I'm going to the house of prayer and study, the the baby inside me is also getting all riled up. It's like, wait a minute, what is it like? Does it like the idols or does it like the prayer and study? It's like, well, really, there's two nations inside you. It's like almost like alluding and hinting to this idea. It's like you really have two souls. And so sometimes that's like we feel that tension because there's always that inner battle within us between these two souls, the godly soul and animal soul. And so that leads us into text two. Um, 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 Daniel yeah, Daniel, why don't you read text two?
Two.
Go for it.
Imagine two kings locked in a battle, each desperate to gain control over the same city so that all its inhabitants will obey his every decree. The
Hmm.
same battle rages within each of us between our two souls. Our divine soul longs to be the sole ruler of our body and its functions, directing all of our limbs to serve as a vehicle for her. Its rival, the animalistic soul, desires the exact opposite. Nevertheless, the desires of the animalistic soul are ultimately for our benefit, for when we overcome them, we emerge more spiritually empowered.
Yeah, so they're both souls want soul power, no pun intended, because I thought that was funny. Um, uh, they both want soul power over the body, and the way I would like to think about it, the best like one analogy I like to think about it is like a horse and the rider of the horse. Like the horse is like the animal soul, the rider is like the godly soul. It's really one team. They have to work together because they're both in one body, right? So like you can have a horse that's like totally misbehaving and all it wants is hay and water and just wants to like not do what you tell it to do whatsoever and totally not untrained, etc. Or you can have like a horse that's like running the Kentucky Derby and very refined. So the whole kind of work that's required amongst us is to really kind of train our animal soul to be kind of more subservient to the godly soul. And that way we can overcome the temptations and that we're able to actually accomplish a lot in life because we need the animal soul. Like just like the jockey needs the horse for the Kentucky Derby.
Rabbi
That was my
Yaakov,
analogy,
do
by the
you
way.
think this might be like
Yeah.
for another time, but the word consciousness, would you like
Mhm.
the are we going to use that equivalently with soul, like two
Conscience,
consciousnesses, or
like
not
your
exactly?
conscience, like
No, conscious,
conscience.
not conscience, but consciousness. Like
Well,
mhm, I don't
I
know.
don't know. I guess, oh, you're saying, I would say your like the consciousness, you only have one. Just because you have two souls doesn't mean you have two consciences at the same time. You can't have like two realities. It's only one you, right? It's not like two yous. So you can only have one experience at any given time. Like my wife when she's she was advising a friend, in dating world and etc. And like she was trying to decide this or that. I like him, I don't like, and she's thinking like she told her like, well, is what you're saying right now, is this your godly soul talking right now or your animal soul talking right now, Or, you can kind of like a lot of different situations in life, you can kind of like stop and think, hey, wait a minute. Which soul is the one that's having this emotion or that's kind of saying or acting or doing this, etc. Okay. Neil, you wanna do text three? Let me unmute you. Oh, actually, yeah. There you go.
Okay.
You righteous. Yeah, go for it.
God saw that the righteous are few in number, so he planted them in every generation.
Beautiful. So that's a quote from the Talmud. And basically, at the slide, you can see tzaddik and Beinoni. So a righteous person is called a tzaddik. And in Payson, we had a, hard time just everyone getting these words down. Tzaddik means righteous. Beinoni means intermediate person. So these are the two main types of people. If you notice, I did not put down the third category, which is a rasha, a wicked person. And I'll explain why in a second. Okay, so tzaddik is according to okay, I got to give a little background because we have some people that are well versed in traditional Jewish topics. So the Talmud says more simply, there's different sources for the definitions of tzaddik Beinoni Russia. So there's one source in the Talmud that says that's much more simple. It says, oh, if you have more merits than demerits, then you're a tzaddik. If you have more demerits than merits, you're a rasha. And if you are 50-50, then you're a Beinoni. You're intermediate. That's not the definition the Alter Rebbe goes with in the Tanya. The whole one of the main like points, like arguments, guess like almost the thesis of the at least the beginning part of the Tanya is really around the idea that he rejects. I mean, he accepts that definition is used in a colloquial sense, but the true definition is a tzaddik is someone that has completely conquered his animal soul. They're very rare people that are it's very rare to find a true tzaddik because it's someone that doesn't even have that has the desire to do the wrong thing, right? He's completely abolished all the flaws within him. So a classic example of a tzaddik would be King David. In the sense of the use of the word like higher consciousness, states of consciousness. I don't know. I don't know.
No,
Oh, Daniel.
I'm answering Tikva's question she put on
Oh.
there.
Oh, I didn't see
Yes.
Tikva's thing.
I was wondering if Daniel was referring to levels of consciousness by Freud, where you have the
Oh.
conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. And if
Oh.
whether or not both souls, the animal and the godly soul, experience it both separately or together.
That is very interesting. Wow. I don't know. This is very interesting. Okay, good. I'm glad you're here to shed light on that. I would argue that it's like you only have one you. You only have one conscious you, right? Uh, so
Correct.
I'm kind of curious. So
I think one of them is, I think
what does
whether
Freud
it's your
say?
godly one or it's your animal one of
Mhm.
them is going to win out. And that's the one that's experiencing different levels of consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would say. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, getting back to the idea of the tzaddik, King David is a good example because most tzaddikim, most righteous people, they're not born righteous. It's a situation, it's a certain type of soul type, very rare, like King David, who he started off his life not doing the best things. He actually did, not holy things. The story of Bathsheba and everything. He was not a perfect individual by any stretch earlier in his life, but he worked on himself really, really hard and he did this major tshuva experience. And he was able to completely abolish his Yetzer Hara is negative inclination, and he completely conquered his animal soul to the extent that he doesn't even have the temptation anymore to do or think, speak, or do like actual evil. So that would be a tzaddik. It says there's a classic thing about the tzaddik is that they're planted in every generation. Um, a tzaddik is planted in every generation. There's like 36 tzaddikim, right? So it's very, very few, very rare thing that like any given time there's like only 36 in the whole world, something it's very rare. So what's everyone else then? Everyone else is either a Beinoni or has the potential to be a Beinoni. A Beinoni is if someone's constantly struggling. This is us. This is us normal people. We're constantly have temptations and you know the urges and things that wants us to not do the right thing, and we constantly have to overcome that negative impulse and to constantly manage our flaws and to fight this battle, so to speak, between our animal and godly soul, etc. So like we don't have these like perfect you know tzaddik souls. We're all Beinonims. So um Dr. Hernandez, why don't you read text 4 on page 165 if you are able. Oh, nice.
A path for all. The
Mhm.
status of Benini attainable for all people. Achieving this status ought to be every person's goal. At
Mhm.
any time, any person can be a Benoni because the Benoni does not have an aversion for the unholy, which is a feeling that we cannot necessarily control. Rather, the Benoni's task is only to turn away from evil and do good. In
Mhm.
actual practice, in deed, speech, and thought. In these areas, the choice, ability, and freedom are given to every person to act, speak, and think in ways that are contrary to the desire of the heart and even diametrically opposed to it.
Yeah, so I think the thing for me is like the way I like to think about it is like we were saying, this is why it's so important that we learned in lesson 3 the 10 sfirot, the 10 attributes, because our attributes are kind of more pre-programmed. It's almost like our hardware, the hardware of our soul, so to speak. Because even though technically you can upgrade your hardware, but it's very, very hard and it's very, very challenging. And if you'll barely move the needle, at least practically on a practical level for most normal people, if you're not a tzaddik. Um, but the only thing we really have control of is our soul garments, which you spoke about last week, the thought, speech, and action. And that's why I don't know if you noticed in that text there it kept referring to the thought, action, speak, and think, right? Action, speech, and thought, those are the things that we can actually control. Oops, did I lose you? Oh no. Can anyone see me? Oh. Oh, there I am. Okay, sorry about that. Um, so anyways, the action, thought, speech, and action are the only things that we can actually control. So therefore you can like be in a very negative emotional place, but still choose to think, speak, and act the way that you're supposed to, and that you can control no matter. But it's a very big challenge. It's not easy by any stretch. No one's saying that, but it's something that is attainable according to the Tanya. Okay, page 166, embracing the struggle. Yes, this is a fun diagram. Unreasonable expectations, no expectations. The idea of expectations, I think it'll be a fun way this is a fun activity, exercise 5.3, to really understand happiness in the context of expectations. And this is like a very, I'm sure in the secular world, it's been spoken about quite a bit. The idea of expectations and how that relates to happiness. But why don't you all take literally 10 seconds? This should not take more than 10 seconds to do exercise 5.3. Realistically, to which degree are the following scenarios likely to frustrate you? If you circle 3, if you're not at all frustrated, 2, if you're somewhat frustrated, and 1, if you're very frustrated by these 5 scenarios. And then once you finish, react with a thumbs up. Yay, mom wins. Okay, I'm gonna ask to unmute you. I'm curious how you answered. These we can share.
Well, if my car broke down and I needed to hire a cab, I'd be very frustrated, I think. Can't afford the car of your choice. I'm not a car person really, so I'm not frustrated at all by that. And luxury car for sure not, because I don't really
Yeah.
care about cars. And I can't afford a private jet. Well, I have no expectation of having a private jet, so I'm not frustrated. And I haven't any expectation of sprouting wings. So I'm not frustrated. So really the only thing I'm very frustrated by is my car breaking down.
Yeah. And so, but like, so this is a fun exercise, mental exercise. Well, which of the 5 things is the greatest thing to have of the 5? Anyone can shout out if they want to unmute themselves. Which of the 5, this should be easy. Which of the 5 is the most desirable of all these scenarios to happen to you? Sorry, to not the opposite, meaning to that it would happen as opposed to not happening. It would be obviously number 5, right? Sprouting wings would be amazing, right? But if that's the most amazing thing to happen, then why wouldn't you be frustrated? You should be frustrated the most, no? If I should be frustrated by the most by the fact that I haven't sprouted wings, right? But I'm not. And why is that? Because I have no expectation. It's completely out of my league. I have not even, no expectation the slightest that I plan to sprout wings within the next day or two. Like, so if I was a bird and I felt like it was my God-given right to sprout wings and I wasn't, then I'd be extremely, extremely frustrated. Um, so like that's the thing about scenario number 1 is that, we expect our cars to work and to function properly. So when it does break down, we get very frustrated. But so one of the keys to like this is also like a very basic idea of happiness also, just the less expectations we have, um, then everything that happens to us that's good, it will bring us great amounts of joy, because we won't, because it exceeds our expectation. See, unreasonable expectations bring frustration. No expectations, we don't have any frustration. Okay, so this is the quote from the Tanya. Dr. Hernandez, why don't you read it? Oh wait, you read it already. I saw Dr. Shamis in the chat, so you must be here. Oh, Dan's also here. Hi, Dan. Um, you know what?
I've been here. I don't know.
No, I know, no. I know you have. Now I just didn't see you because there's a good problem that in my video feed of all the people, I can't fit them all in one little box, which is a good problem. So, Dr. Seamus, why don't you read text 5? And I'll have Diane read text 6 and 167. You can unmute yourself first, though, because otherwise, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're on.
Okay. To the contrary, despondency over spiritual struggles stems from an inflated self-assessment, not from recognizing your place.
No, wait, no, from
No,
not. Sorry, yeah, it's like I'm like
let's-
the corrector of the bell right now.
no, wrong
Yeah, so
reading.
from not, yeah, just start over, Yeah,
To the contrary,
yeah.
no, despondency over your spiritual struggle stems from an inflated self-assessment, from not recognizing your place.
Hmm.
This delusion leads you to feel badly that you are not on the level of the perfect person, who is certainly not bothered by such foolish thoughts. Know your place. You are very far from the level of the perfect person. Rather, you should aspire to always be a Ben Oni and never for a moment to fail in thought, speech, and action. This, after all, is the lot of the Ben Oni, and their task in life to struggle against and subdue their negative impulses.
So once we learn to have more realistic expectations of which kind of soul we are, which is we are Benoni souls, or at least the souls that have the potential to be Benoni. They used to be like it's like Halavai, like if only I was a Benoni, it's like, if we realize that is who we are, our soul is meant for this struggle and designed for this challenge and struggle, then it's not gonna make us feel frustrated or stressed or unhappy by the fact that we have character flaws, because we know that that's part of our souls, that's part of what our soul's meant to do and be a part of, and that's just that is who we are. And we should be joyous in the fact that we have the opportunity to have this battle every single day. Even though it might get frustrating and sometimes say, hey, what do you mean I just did this battle yesterday? Like, I had a hard time getting up yesterday, and I'm having a hard time getting up today. You'd think that I would have made some progress by now. Like, no, but that same struggle every day, that's what God wants. God wants to see the struggle, that God wants you to work that hard struggle and to overcome every day, overcoming that struggle. That brings a lot of joy and pleasure on high. And so we can see this slide here. Let's look at the slide. Why God created the world. Struggling our inescapable lot. Okay. Okay, so Diane, why don't you read text 6? Don't forget to unmute yourself. Oh, there you go.
The purpose of the evolution of the worlds and their descent from level to level is not for the sake of the higher worlds. Rather, the purpose is this lowly world. For so it arose in God's desire that he should derive satisfaction when the negativity of this world is vanquished and its darkness is transformed into light.
Beautiful. Meaning the whole purpose is for this is to be down here specifically and doing this hard work that is that yeah of fighting our negative impulses and et cetera, working on our animal soul to subdue it, et cetera. That is really what it's all about. Okay, text 7 also is in this vein. Who's next? Okay, I feel like the order of the screens keep changing, so I don't know. It's not like everyone in Payson, everyone's like sitting around in a nice like semicircle, so it's like much easier. Who wants? Does anybody? Everyone already read, so we could just accept volunteers. Does anyone want to read? You can react with a.
I'll read.
Okay, you can react with a. Is there a hand raising? Oh yeah, raise hand. Look at that. See, I just raised my hand. See how I raise that hand? I don't know how to unraise my hand. Oh, there you go. Okay, go for it. Text 8. Oh, sorry, text 7. On page 169. Go for it.
2 types of pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Do not feel distressed or exceedingly troubled, even if you are engaged in this conflict all your life. For perhaps this is the reason why you were created, and this is your calling, to constantly subdue unholiness. There are 2 kinds of enjoyment for God. One is from the complete annihilation of unholiness. This is accomplished by perfect people who transform their internal bitterness to sweetness and darkness to light. The second is from the subduing of unholiness, which is at the apex of its strength, through the effort of the strugglers.
Beautiful. Well done. Beautiful. You have some background noise, so I'm just gonna mute you again. Beautiful. So that last quote from the chapter 27 of Tanya really, really drives home the point. Now this next quote, we actually have a couple quotes from non-Chabad Hasidic sources, which is very exciting. This next text is from Rabbi Aaron of Karlin, who was a colleague of the Alter Rebbe, but he was the leader of his own Hasidic dynasty branches. So tzaddik is annihilating, Beinoni is subduing, success of the Beinoni, standing up to the other side when it's at full strength. Who wants to read text 8? You can make a react with a what's another funny reaction you could do? This I like this the balloon one. You can react with oh whoa. Yeah, you can react with the balloons if you want to read text
I can
8.
read whatever.
Okay, go for it.
What is the essence of despondency? Despondency means I deserve this. I am missing that. Whether it's a material lack or a spiritual lack, it's all about me. Why should I be concerned over what I lack? I should be concerned that nothing is lacking for God. If our patriarch Abraham would wish to change places with me, I would refuse. Abraham is a tzaddik with very lofty spiritual attainments, and I'm a plain person. If I changed places with Abraham, then he would be a plain person, and I would be a lofty person. God would get nothing out of this exchange. The only one who would gain is me, in that I would achieve loftiness, but that would only be about me and myself. Psh,
By the way, I think what's
psh.
so beautiful about this quote is Reb Aaron of Karlin, he's not like such a simple, unlearned peasant of a Jew either, right? He is like a Hasidic Rebbe of an entire like dynasty that started like, all this Hasidic from him sprouted all these Hasidic branches of the so it's just so funny that his humility in this quote is just so astounding you know this quote also reminds me of another famous story of Rabbi Zusha of Anipoli. His favorite famous line was, after 120 years when I go up to heaven, they're not going to ask me, why were you not more like Abraham? Why were you not more like Isaac? Why are you not more like Jacob? They're going to ask you, why were you not more like Zusha? Meaning to say, why were you not more like you, fulfilling your purpose in the world? So, so that is, so yeah, yeah, the biggest theme, underlying theme and thread that I'm kind of like almost weaving through all of these lessons is really humility. And, all the way from the first lesson all the way till now is it's just so powerful. Um, just recognizing the humility of knowing our place. And when we have that recognition, then it's just such a key to happiness. It's just incredible. Okay, text 9, the bigger picture. You know what? I didn't get to read yet, so I don't know. Maybe it's not fair. I didn't get to read. Um, maybe I don't know. Ima, do you want to read the bigger picture?
Yes.
This is
Uh,
by Rabbi Simcha Bunov of Pshischa.
Okay. Every one of us has a bundle that contains everything we experience in the course of our lives. In the world to come, all the bundles will be mixed together, and yet every person will recognize his own bundle and want it, only it.
Yeah, so another beautiful I think what's beautiful of this quote is just the words that he uses to kind of describe this idea, that really it's we are the ones that meaning we don't want anyone else's struggles because we know that God tailor crafted our struggles for us, and God knows that only we have the ability to accomplish and overcome the challenges that we were given. And that's why we were given those challenges. And so we are blessed to have our very unique set of challenges. So because that's how our soul is programmed for us to be able to overcome. So whatever challenge we go through the life, recognize that this is unique for us and we should be so joyous and just in that alone. Okay, I see a blank screen here, so that must mean it's video time. This video is, we actually have two videos in the series, and they gave me an option of playing one or the other, and I liked both of them. So,
Can I make
so
a quick comment?
yeah, please.
I think this is awesome. Like just
Yes,
awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
yes, that's great feedback.
What a reversal. Busy
Oh,
thinking I need to become less arrogant, more patient, to work on myself, right? This is like the whole growth movement, really. What about no, I need to work on this for God. Wrong. The
Yeah.
opposite. I need to work on being less down because God forgot, not for me.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
everything's split on its head, and this kind of ties into my introduction about the Dairy Queen ad of the happiness being upside down. Because we're gonna see this video really does a good job showing how really everything is the opposite of the way that we thought, and helps kind of flip things on its head. So let's watch this.
One day, a fire in hell got out of control and the whole place burned down. It was bound to happen sooner or later, with those infernal fires burning night and day. So a troupe of architects and interior designers were assigned to build a brand new hell. They redid everything, from the landscaping to the ceramic in the bathrooms. But the righteous folk upstairs in paradise complained. The wicked guys get a brand new modern complex while we are housed in this old dilapidated place? Is this justice? It was decided that the righteous were indeed right. So, the wicked folks were relocated to the old paradise, which now becomes the new hell. And the holy folk moved into the renovated hell, which became the new paradise. What is the meaning of this story?
Wait, I just want to preface this was a true story. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's not an actual true story. It's an analogy to help us understand a concept. Okay, just clarify that.
Parable is often used to illustrate one of the innovations of the groundbreaking work Tanya by Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. Before the Tanya, for many people, their inner life was a spiritual hell. It was a place of discord, self-doubt, and a crushing sense of futility over the never-ending conflict between mind and heart, which went something like this. Why am I attracted to things that are not good for me? Why do I shy away from things I consider good and desirable? Why do I need to force myself to do what I want to do? Am I such a weak and confused creature that I cannot act on my convictions? The spiritually aspiring person yearned for a paradise of inner tranquility. But this yearned for paradise never manifested. The Tanya affirms that there are two selves inside us, a moral and upward-reaching godly soul, and a selfish and materialistic animal soul. And yes, these two selves are engaged in a constant conflict. But according to the Tanya, this inner turmoil is not a spiritual hell. It is a spiritual paradise. For this is our calling in life. Our internal struggles form an integral part of a greater cosmic conflict between the good in God's creation and the negativity, which obscures that goodness. The fighting of this battle is the very purpose for which God created us. And every small victory we score in this struggle brings untold pleasure and gratification to our Creator. By revealing this truth, the Tanya turned the old paradise into the new hell, and the old hell was recast as the new paradise.
That was cute. Any comments, questions, concerns? Oh, oops, that was not intentional. Okay. Common denominator. So yes, that was just like a nice analogy to really understand to help bring out the concept more. Not that analogy of the hell paradise thing. I've never seen that anywhere in any primary sources. It's just a cute analogy to help really kind of bring that concept home. Okay. So let's read text 10 on page 173. Why can't I be born a tzaddik? Why do I have these particular struggles? Oh, okay. Let's read before we watch the last video, the next video. Well, let's read through oh, you know what? This is a good natural break in the course, and it is almost the hour up. So what I did in so 7:26. What I did in the other course was at around this time, the people were sitting around for too long, and they said, "Hey, I want to get up and stretch, move around, whatever. So if you want, this is a great opportunity while we're watching the second. This is like another video to kind of bring home the same point using another analogy. This analogy I like actually even better than the previous one. And it's more simple to really understand. So yeah, take advantage of these next 3 minutes to just stretch around, grab a drink, take some, whatever you need, and then we can hop in the last section of the lesson, which is also interesting.
Farmer Carmel trudged to a well with wooden pails dangling from a pole across his shoulders. One bucket was flawless. It never spilled a drop. The other had a hole in its upper half. By the time Farmer Carmel returned, the imperfect bucket had lost a quarter of its water. It tried mightily to hold its water in, but drip by drip, the leakage repeated itself. "I'll never be perfect," it wailed one day. "With all my efforts, I'll stay 3/4 full. What a failure. How depressing. My twin makes it look easy, but it's not easy for me." "My dear bucket," Farmer Carmel grinned. "I built the barn and replaced the farm roof myself. Am I incapable of fixing a bucket?" "I never thought of that," the bucket stammered. "But why haven't you done so all these frustrating years?" "Oh," chuckled the farmer, "I'd like you to peer beneath your base." "Flowers, an endless line of them," gushed the astounded bucket. "What a beautiful sight!" "What's on the other side of the track?" the farmer interrupted. "Nothing at all." "What's going on?" "I made that hole in your side," the farmer admitted, "to grow a row of beautiful blooms to decorate my home and to sell in the town square." The bucket gasped. "You mean I'm not imperfect?" the pail asked incredulously. "Not to me," laughed Farmer Carmel. "You are exactly as I want you to be. I drilled your hole high enough so that you retain enough water for me despite the leakage. And your flaw has served a marvelous role on my farm." In the book of Tanya, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi explains that our world is God's garden. We wish we were perfect, doing what God wants of us, without repetitive cycles of trying and failing at perfecting ourselves and our lives. It can get us down. But if we saw God's perspective, we would see the brilliant blossoms we nurture with every struggle, each time we raise our head, and each time we forge ahead. God tailored our flaws and detrimental circumstances to serve a higher purpose. We are riding on God's shoulders. If we do our best, God will take care of the rest. And one day, we will see the tremendous beauty and global benefit that we generated.
Yeah, I really liked that. That analogy was really, really beautiful. Just first of all, that video is really well done, and if you look at it really, because I've already watched it like 4 or 5 times now. Every time you like see the details that they did is really, really clever. But you just think about our lives and our souls as like that bucket. Our flaws are not. Our character flaws are not things to be frustrated or stressed out about. They're to be embraced, because that is actually the purpose of where we're meant to have those flaws in order to reveal, something great within us. And that struggle is what's beautiful. Just like that bucket that had the hole in it, and that hole was there by design to make those flowers in the road. So very powerful analogy. It is over an hour, so anyone that has to run, obviously, you can. I'll have this last part recorded. So I will email the recording out to everyone. So you can watch the end part after if you want, if you need to go. But don't go. No, I'm just kidding. You this the last part uh is basically really addressing the next level is what if okay, I have character flaws that I can come to terms with. What if I actually messed up? What if I actually did something wrong? Then what do I do? So you can see this girl trying to take the strawberries, which she took a strawberry and she wasn't supposed to. So how does she overcome that? So with that, we need to read. This is distress over actual wrongdoings. Okay, page 173, text 10. Um, maybe unless someone wants to read, maybe I'll just read. Um, Raise your hand if you want to read, because then I will let you read. But otherwise, I'll read. So text 10 is a section of the Talmud that basically says Gedela Tshuva, greatest Tshuva as it transforms a person's deliberate sins into shkagot. Zdonot nasot lo kishkagot. It transforms a person's deliberate sins into error, into unintentional sins. But then the next line says Gedolat tshuva zdonot nasot lo kizechuyot. The greatest tshuva because it transforms a person's deliberate sins into virtues. Meaning teshuva, this concept of teshuva in Judaism is such a powerful idea that it literally transforms a person transgressions into literal virtues, so to such an extent that a righteous person can never attain that level because he never did anything wrong. So a person that did something wrong and then did teshuva for it can actually reach an even higher level. So it's such a powerful concept that is very novel that a lot of people don't really think about. Text 11 is a quote from the Rebbe that says that even those who have failed and behaved in a manner that is contrary to God's commandments have the ability to be joyous. So don't think, right? Don't think that just because you've never right just because you did something wrong doesn't mean you should be sad. I think that's the big misconception. I think in a lot of Judaism that I was taught to a certain extent, not fully, but a certain extent, it's like, okay, you did something wrong, you should feel bad. You should obviously have certain level of remorse, which we're going to talk about, but you don't have to be sad. You shouldn't get depressed over the fact that you did something wrong. And this is kind of a novel insight from the Rebbe here. When they contemplate, I'm on page 174 here. When they contemplate and clearly recognize that in spite of their wrongdoings, God provides an option for teshuvah, a process, a special process that allows them to regain favored status and even to transform past mistakes into positives, then concurrent with the bitterness and remorse of teshuvah, they will also experience tremendous joy. After all, they have returned, and their previously fractured relationship with God has been completely restored. So, so you should be joyous in the fact that you have this opportunity to do teshuvah. And that's the difference between like the two ways of seeing negativity, as you can see in the slide. In Judaism, really negativity is not something, oh, we have to temper and just try to get back to square one. If we mess up, get back to square one. No, tshuva is this when if we do something wrong, we should be very joyous in the fact that we have the opportunity to do teshuva and reach an even higher level than we could have ever even reached before. And so the next so the now the thing that we have a problem with, we have to really figure out the model to shoot two of tshuva is really what we're talking about. Now we have to understand the difference between remorse and despair because we don't want it's important to feel some sense of remorse. If we do something wrong, we should feel some remorse, right? So if we felt no remorse, then you wouldn't feel bad. You have to feel bad to some extent for doing bad things, right? Otherwise, you're gonna keep doing bad things. Um, but we can't let it turn into like despair or depression or sadness, as you can see by this diagram. Um, Remorse in this context in Hebrew is translated as merirut. Merirut in Hebrew means bitterness, but we're using the translation remorse. And despair in Hebrew, the Hebrew term would be atzvut, which can also mean sadness or depression. So we want merirut, bitterness or remorse, but not atzvut, despair, depression. So how do we make sure that we are exclusively having remorse and not despair? Figure 5.1 delineates the difference between despair and remorse. And these are very specific ways to have remorse that the Tanya delineates in a way that it won't result in despair, God forbid. So he says that in number 1 in figure 5.1, despair is passive while remorse is active. Remorse is something you initiate while despair is something that befalls you. Number 2, despair has no goal while remorse is goal-oriented. Remorse is a vehicle for achieving self-transformation. 3, despair is a bottomless pit while remorse has boundaries. Remorse is contained within a certain time frame in order to achieve a specific goal. So you can see in text 12, this is the direct quote from the Tanya that talks about this topic in chapter 26, which is a very powerful idea. That whenever sadness, I'm reading text 12 on page 175. Whenever sadness happens upon us, whether we are involved in the service of God or in some other manner, we must realize that now is an inappropriate time for genuine remorse, even over egregious misdeeds. God forbid. Wait, I totally punctuated that incorrectly. I'm going to start from again. Whenever sadness happens to us, whether we are involved in the service of God or in some other manner, we must realize that now is an inappropriate time for genuine remorse, even over egregious misdeeds, God forbid. Right? Why? Because for genuine remorse, we need designated times when we have calmness of mind. During those appropriate times, we should reflect upon the greatness of God against whom we have sinned, and thereby cause our hearts to be truly broken and genuinely embittered. Elsewhere, it is clarified precisely when this time should be. It's also explained there that once our hearts have been broken during these designated times, we should completely dismiss the sorrow and believe with a perfect faith that God in his abundant forgiveness has removed our sin. So another way to translate this in my own simple language is if you're in the middle of like a business meeting or like just coffee chatting with someone and all of a sudden like a feeling of remorse pops into your head randomly throughout the day, that the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe is saying is unhealthy. That is not good. That is a sign that you should push that away. You should not feel any sense of remorse in that moment. You should be happy. Ignore that, even if it was remorse over something you did wrong. Why? Because he says that remorse needs to be things that are reserved for very specific times that you are initiating those times to feel that. Otherwise, it could lead to despair. So, because remorse spurs to correct negative behavior, despair, repetition of negative behavior. So this is the times for remorse. So on a day-to-day basis, the time you can actually set aside like 5 minutes a day, a couple minutes a day, daily before you go to bed and say, hey, these are the time where I'm going to think about anything wrong I did during the day and feel genuine remorse for those things. That would be one option daily. That's the traditional times before you go to bed. Monthly, the traditional time if you want to designate a time for remorse would be Erev Rosh Chodesh, the day before the new month of the Hebrew month is traditionally a time. It's called Yom Kippur Katan. It's like a miniature Yom Kippur every month, the day before Rosh Chodesh. And then annually would be during the Aseret Simei Teshuvah, the times of here we go. Rosh Chodesh. So yeah, I got all these right. Okay, that's great. The 10 days of Teshuvah between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that's like in time annually to think about all the things I may have done wrong over the past year and see if I can, think, how have like genuine remorse, but only at those very designated times. So to conclude, the journey toward embracing our imperfections begins with I'm reading page 177. Begins with a commitment to growth. By enjoying these victories in this daily struggle, we can acquire a sustainable sense of fulfillment and peace, understanding that our value lies not in flawlessness, but in the earnest effort to live a purposeful life. So that's that. We have one more week to go. Very exciting. Choose ongoing yearning. So the last lesson that we're going to learn next week, which is going to be the climax, so to speak, of the whole course, is the highest level of happiness and most, I guess, refined, subtle level of happiness, which is how to actually derive spiritual pleasure and happiness. So yeah, so on a practical level, on page 178, there's a nice, beautiful activity you can kind of do during the week, because it's always so important that every lesson has a practical takeaway, that it's not just like, okay, we did this lesson and now we go back to our normal lives where we're stressed out about this and that all the time, but rather that we should be able to try to internalize some of these concepts throughout the week. So here it says on exercise 5.4 to keep a daily tally of the victories you score and the internal conflict between your godly self and your animal self. Oh, this is fun. So anytime you feel you're faced with any of these challenges or choices, below you can actually give yourself a little tally and to mark your victories on the chart. And we want to focus on the positives. That's why we're only marking our victories and not our defeats, because we want to have a positivity bias, and that's another concept that is very important. So every day you could, like, I think a nice activity is like at the end of every day, you can even do this tonight before you go to bed if you want, is look at your anger, look at the things throughout the day. If there's any times that you were challenged in this area of anger versus forgiveness, greed versus generosity, impulse versus mindfulness, arrogance versus humility, or you can come up with your own. But like wherever you had the temptation to do the wrong thing and you overcame that to do the right thing, that's your godly soul winning over your animal soul. So that's that. And yeah, and that is it. The key points are beautifully displayed on page 179, also on this slide here, but we don't have to read them all aloud, but these are the key points, yada yada. And as a nice, beautiful additional reading on Change by Rabbi and Dr. Pelkovitz. So I actually read through some of it. It's very interesting. It's a chapter from the book. Oh, and also another article by J. Litvin, Spiritual Warrior. And then we have one last week. So we're very excited. Okay. We did it. Anyone have any thoughts, comments, questions? Ima, you're applauding, but you got to unmute yourself if I want to hear your applause.
You're doing a great job.
Yay, thank you. Okay. Anyone else? I'm just kidding. Yeah, okay, we got to applause for Tikva. That's amazing. Okay, well, I want to wish you all a wonderful evening, and stay warm out there. If you're in the White Mountains, and also if you're up in the White Mountains during Hanukkah, we have Hanukkah lightings on the first night of Hanukkah in Pine Top, Arizona. I'll send you information if you're interested. And on the second night of Hanukkah, on Monday night in Taylor and Snowflake. Thank you to Diane for helping with the signs for that, making that happen. And then on Wednesday night in Rim Country, we have a Hanukkah party at the Payson Library. So we're really excited for all that. So yeah. Okay. Well, Lila, Tov, everyone, I'm gonna sign off. It was all great to learn together, and I can't wait to hear
Thank you,
how
Rabbi.
you're able to yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Rabbi.
you, Diane. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Tikva and everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll send the recording tomorrow, God willing. Okay. Have a great night, everyone.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye. Bye.